Welcome again to another video. This is Ron here, and today we're continuing the same series on the wedding banquet. But today, instead of going to a full room, we're going to take a little snippet of it and detail that section out. And when I mean snippet, I mean instead of doing an entire room full of tables, we're just going to do one or two tables in order to use that as a way to determine how our final room is going to look like. So here's my table. And this is the first thing you should always do. First, choose the table you want. And to prevent having to do everything from scratch, for example, if I pick a table, then I have to pick a chair, arrange my chair around it. Well, the shortcut is if you pick the table first, then you can jump right into table arrangement, which is kind of like a little wizard that helps you lay things out. Alphabetically, it automatically pulls up the chair that's called the errand chair. That's definitely not a wedding chair, so I'll pick this chair. And also we can see here that we can have multiple chairs, but for a table that size, which happens to be 72-inch diameter, which is showing here, 11 would be way too much. So I would say 8's a good number. Okay, great. Now we have our basic table, and I'm just going to make a few more copies of that one and another one. Okay, so I have enough tables to let me design the space and imagine it. Let me quickly save. In order to save time, I'm just going to have another browser window with 3D. Basically, this is a CPQ 3D app that's already been generated. You have to generate an app in order to be able to do the following, which is selecting an object and then changing the colors. I chose this table and I just changed the color, and then you notice that it only changes one color. So therefore, if I click on apply all, any color change I make applies to all. All meaning all of the same type. Also, that also works. Usually when a color comes up, if there's more than one color involved in that object, the secondary object will show at the bottom. If there's a third, it would also display those options for you. So when you're here, then this is where you get to decide, hey, what is the color theme of this this wedding that I'm going to be doing? And perhaps picking out tablecloths at this point may not be helpful. You may need to decorate a little bit before you get to a point where you say, okay, now let's look at the overall design and then give it a color. So I'm going to jump back into my floor plan. So here's the floor plan, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to start detailing it out. I'm just going to do it on one table. For example, let's say I take this is an informal table setting. So I have my little informal table setting here. Actually, in order to make that complete, I'm just going to bring in my wine glasses. And I'm going to group those two objects. The way you group it, you hold shift and you select both objects. hit group. Now it's a group, and I'm just going to duplicate all those groups over each chair, chair locations. And as you can see, every time I duplicated it, it takes it over to the side, which means we've added that little tool that may be annoying to some, but it's to avoid having stuff, items nested under each other, and you may not notice you duplicated something even though you've duplicated it 10 times. So here we're doing this is, we don't have an automated process for this portion. This is a little bit of a manual setup, but it's not too bad, because whenever you get to a point where you had a complete set of something, you do the same thing. You select all the objects by holding shift, and then you group again. Here we go again. As you can see, very quickly I'm able to perceive what this table is going to look like. Now I'm using the idea that one table represents all the tables, so it's not necessary for me to be doing this on all of them. I'm just going to use that as our representative table here. Let's jump back. There's a few other things we can decorate this table with. Let's put a couple wine bottles. You can get carried away just putting so many details, but one little word of warning is that when you grab items in this setup, it happens that some of these objects automatically, when you drop them in, they're elevated at 29.5 inches. The table height is at 29 inches. So if that was not the case, and I grab a table that's on the floor, when I put it on, even though I physically move it on top of the table, that does not mean in 3D it will be on top of the table. It just happens that those objects has default settings that were at 29 inches. So that may be what happens sometimes if you grab something, you go to 3D and you don't see it. It may be buried under another object, even though you're seeing it in two-dimensional view. Again, maybe some other items, let me bring them in just so I can, even candles, I can bring in candles. I've seen people do that. So duplicate a few of them, put them around the table. I can bring in this little thing here. So container. And what else can we do in this category here? You can probably bring a wine cooler, wine bucket. I think I've had enough for this table. I think all we're missing now is some flowers. And I would probably look under plant and trees category. Let me test a few flowers. I'm going to bring this in, but for the centerpiece I'm going to bring this big one in, put it right in the center here. Actually, I'm going to make another copy of that. Here's what this is turning out to look like now. We have quite a busy table. Perhaps I probably don't need all these objects, but it's good to actually simulate that. That will let you know whether this table would be big enough for everything you want on it. I think this is I have all my objects, perhaps, and over here this is my other flower type that may be used, but I think I'm going to stick to that centerpiece over there. Okay, great. Gonna get rid of this, I don't need it. I'll just leave this behind. I'm not going to be using that table for anything. If you're going to simulate something, you might as well just go all out, especially on a smaller plan like this. Naturally, I wouldn't make a room and put people in every seat, because the more objects you put in the scene, you have to mind the amount of memory it's going to take to reload that object. I happen to be on a very fast computer, but if you were to send this to somebody's mobile phone, it may take a while to load, especially to a client. You don't want a client having a hard time loading a scene because you put so many things in it. Okay, so we have our people. We have a nice sense of scale when it comes to the people. I just put them over there so they won't block my view here. And we have our table settings, where we are, as far as the progress, we're almost done. Here at this point, all we have to do now is play with colors, I would guess. If I chose, for example, a chair, I would probably cycle through some of the color choices. Clicked on apply all, just to see what my results are. Right, so everyone knows what color palette they're working on when they're working with a wedding, so they can always expand the color choices. If this was one of their private chairs, you could expand in terms of what color choices you're offering. Okay, great. This is pretty successful. Let me play with the flowers a little bit. So the flowers here, click on apply all again. With the flowers, I don't know what a good color is. I'm just clicking away. That seems to be good. Yeah, that's a good color. Doesn't match the chairs though. Let's go back to the chairs. Seat cushion. Yeah, purple. It's crazy wedding. Okay, great. Back to the tables. Let's go back to the tables. Now tables, you can leave the defaults. It would just be white, but so you can play around with options. And if you come down to the options you like, great. Table numbers. Okay, so I would just have those two tables. So I can change all these, even those colors. Even the plates can have different colors. So this is as far as this goes, very far. I don't know if this is too matchy, but I'll stick with that. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to show you was the picture frame that I just dropped in. And by default it has someone's picture on it, so we have to put somebody's picture, just like so it's not blank. But that's not the end goal. The end goal is to replace it with the table number. So find picture frame here, and then here's an area to drop in your image. Here, I just found this on the web. Doesn't quite match my scale, but you get the point. So here it is. Now I can use that as a table numbering system. And the other frame, I can do the same thing with the other frame. Just as an idea generator, I'm just going to choose something else. Table 20 here. Different design, but we're just playing around with ideas. So here it is. I just put in a new table number just on the frame. So this is a very highly detailed decision-making design, and I did that in a very short period of time, and so can everybody else. So thank you very much, and appreciate you watching the video all the way to the end.